Today's topic, everything you need to know about the cooling off period in Queensland. What is the cooling off period? A cooling off period of 5 business days applies to contracts for the sale of residential property. It starts on the day the buyer receives a copy of the contract signed by all parties. Note, for contracts that arrive on a weekend or public holiday, the cooling off period starts on the next business day. The cooling off period still begins if a representative receives the contract on the buyer's behalf, for example, their lawyers. If there is a dispute, the seller or their agent must prove when they delivered the contract. Please note, the cooling off period is only available as a benefit to the buyer. The seller cannot terminate under cooling off. Example, assume the buyer receives a copy of the relevant contract from the seller at any time on a Monday, even after business hours. Assume also that the cooling off period is not affected by a day that's not a business day. For example, a standard Monday to Friday week with no public holidays. If it's delivered on a Monday, the cooling off period ends at 5 p.m. that Friday. Exempt sales. A contract is exempt from the cooling off period for a few different reasons. Number 1, a sale by auction. Number 2, a follow-up sale after an unsuccessful auction before 5 p.m. on the second business day in which the buyer was a registered bidder. And 3, an option contract, or a sale contract formed as the result of an option contract. Cancelled sales. To cancel the sale contract under cooling off, the buyer or their solicitor must give written notice by 5 p.m. on the 5th day. If the buyer chooses to cancel during the cooling off period, the seller may deduct a penalty of up to 0.25% of the purchase price from the deposit held and will need to refund the rest of the deposit, if applicable, within 14 days. Waived or shortened period. The buyer can choose to waive or shorten the cooling off period. They will need to put this in writing. This document will need to state that the buyer waives the cooling off period in its entirety, or that the cooling off period will last until 5 p.m. on a particular day. For example, if it's normally 5 days, this could be shortened to 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, or completely waived. A waived cooling off period is attractive for vendors, and we suggest using the appropriate one-page document as provided by REIQ, which can be found at our blog. How to use the cooling off period. It's worth noting that the cooling off period is not a negotiating tool. It's designed to allow buyers to reconsider their decision with a small financial penalty. As a seller's agent, it is prudent to collect a reasonable amount for an initial deposit to cover at least the 0.25% of the purchase price cooling off penalty for your seller. For example, on a $1 million purchase, 0.25% of the purchase price is $2,500. If the initial deposit is less than this amount, say $1,000, then only $1,000 would be recoverable if the buyer terminates under the statutory cooling off provision. Please also note that the initial deposit must be held, so if it's not paid and then the buyer decides to terminate, it'll be very difficult to retrieve those monies. To conclude, the cooling off period in Queensland provides buyers with a valuable safety net when purchasing property. It allows a buyer to back out of the contract without incurring any major penalties or legal repercussions, giving the buyer peace of mind when making one of the biggest purchases of their life. At Empire Legal, we look after our buyers by providing advices before a contract is signed as a part of our service. For any questions, please do feel free to get in touch with us. P.S. Special shout out to Elaine Payne for writing to me to suggest this as a topic to share this week. If you have a topic you would like us to cover, please email me on george@empirelegal.com.au. Please note, all information is general in nature as each matter is unique. Please contact our office for tailored advices. This does not constitute legal advice. For simple, sunny, smooth sailing conveyancing, Empire Legal. Thank you guys.